All right. This is Mark Arnold, and we're here with another Fun Ideas podcast. And I want to thank Charles Rosenay for bringing me another special guest. Today we have in the studio Bobby Rydell. Here he is. Or over here. It's always back.
How you doing, Mark?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Bobby? I see you still have that good smile. I mean, it's like your smile is like,
oh, well, thank you very much.
Anyway, just wanted to get to know you a little bit about your career. I'm sure you've been asked a zillion times, but it's like, hey, I might find some little morsel of something you've never talked about before.
You never know.
Hey, I guess we'll start off the way I usually start off with my questioning is tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be a singer and also a drummer, because I know you did that too. So go ahead.
Well, I was born and raised in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I lived with my mom and my dad and my mom's grandparents. And my father, at a very early age, meaning me, I was 5 years old, and he took me to see the Benny Goodman Band. And I'm 5. I didn't know who Benny Goodman was, but my dad wanted to introduce me to big band music and tunes from the American Songbook. So I went with my father, and it was absolutely fantastic. I was mesmerized, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxophones, 12 rhythm section, piano, bass, drums, guitar. And it was really great. But there was one guy in the band, and I said to my father, I don't know who he is, Dad, but I want to be him. And it was Gene Krupa who was playing with the Benny Goodman Band. And that's how I started playing the drums, all because I saw Benny Goodman and I saw Gene Krupa. And if I had any talent within me whatsoever, my dad was the first one to see it. So when I was like 7, 8 years old, my father would take me around to nightclubs and ask the club owner, would it be okay if my son got up to sing a couple of songs and do some impersonations? So I would get up and do just that, and people would applaud. Now I'm 7 years old. And I said to myself, oh my God, all I have to do is do this and they do that. What a wonderful feeling, And it's all because of my dad that I'm in the business today. If I had any talent within me whatsoever, my dad was the first one to see it. And so basically, that particular time in my life was like my vaudeville. And it kind of got me ready for things that were going to happen later on in my life and in my career. So that's basically my story in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So what did your dad do? What did he do anything that was in the entertainment industry, or did he just encourage you?
No. My dad worked for a company. He was a punch press operator. And I remember when my dad was overseas, I was about 3 years old. He was in the Army, and my mom and dad, they always used to write back and forth to one another. And she would say in the letter to my dad, the baby's always singing. The baby's always singing. And he wrote back, and to this day, I still have the letter. He wrote back to my mother, and he said, who knows, Jenny, maybe one day we'll have a star in the family.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, he worked for a place called the Electronite Carbon Company. He was a punch press operator, and he lost his middle finger on his right hand. And he got a bonus check for losing his finger. And when he got that check, he took me to a place called 8th Street Music Sales and bought me my really good first set of drums. They were William F. Ludwig, WFL, and the drums were Black Oyster Pearl. They were a gorgeous, gorgeous set. And I remember years later, when I saw the Beatles and Ringo was playing the same set. Playing William F. Ludwig, Black Oyster Pearl, and I went, I had them before you, man.
So, I know you did some early times with drumming. Let's see, it says here you were with a group called Rocco and His Saints that also had Frankie Avalon playing trumpet. How did that come about?
Correct. Yeah, Mark. Well, Frankie and I go back. When I was 10 years old, Frankie was, I think, 12 at the time. He was 2 years older than me. And he was in this band called Rocco and the Saints. And the drummer, his stage name was Chip Peters, but his real name was Brancata. Chippy Broncata. And he got sick. And Frank said, could you fill in? Can you come in and fill in, for just one night? And it was like doing sets, 40 on and 20 off. So I got up, I played drums, I sang some songs, so on and so forth. And there was a bass player in a band called Billy Duke and the Dukes. They were the headliners. And his name was Frankie Day. And after one of the sets, he came over to me. He said, I'd like to manage you, kid. I said, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Talk to my father, and that's how it all started. He became my manager when I was like 16 years old.
Wow. Now, later in your career, did you play drums like on any of your records, or were you just a vocalist by that point?
Excuse me. I think I overdubbed on Wild One. Something on the hi-hats. I believe, I don't know if they used it or not, but I played on one of the tracks of Wild One. And then in my act, I used to do a drum solo, and I would work. I had a drummer by the name of Carl Matola, who was a really fine player. And we used to do a drum solo together, and I was left-handed, he was right-handed, so it looked like, two guys, in a mirror. And we would play, certain patterns, and then we bring the band back in. But I don't do that anymore. I don't. Okay. I still have my drums. I still have my drums set up, but I don't use them in the show anymore.
Yeah. Okay. You're kind of like me with the piano. I took piano lessons for years, but now here I'm doing interviews. So it's like, let's see. Another thing that I read is that you were on a show, and this show you'll have to explain. I mean, I can tell by the title what it is, but a little more about it. You were on a regular on Paul Whiteman's Amateur Hour. I assume you're a singer on there more than a drummer.
Yeah, no, the show was called the Paul Whiteman TV Teen Club, which gave young talent, a chance, hopefully people would see, watch the show. But what I did on the show, which I won, there was a record by Sammy Davis Jr. called Because of You. And on one side, he did singers doing actors, and the other side, he did actors doing singers. So when I was on the show, I did the side of actors doing singers, like Humphrey Bogart and James Cagney and Jimmy Stewart, to the tune of Because of You. And I won on the show. And then I became a regular. I was 10 years old at the time. And by the time I got to be 11 years old, the show was off the air, and I was out of work at 11.
Oh.
I had no job at 11 years old.
And we've never heard it from you since.
Never again. He just flew the coop.
Now, these two projects, did they have anything to do with you launching a solo singing career, or were they just independent of each other? How did that work?
They were independent of it. Like I said, my dad took me around the clubs, so on and so forth. And then when I was at this place called Bay Shores, Somers Point, New Jersey, right outside of Atlantic City, I sang, I played drums, and that's when I met Frankie Day, who played bass with Billy Duke and the Dukes, and he became my manager back in, my God, let me see, I was 16 years old, 1957, 58, somewhere around there.
I think I read the first record you cut was in 1957. I mean, do you remember what your first one was? Because I don't think it charted.
What is it again?
Did you remember what the first record you cut was? Because I don't think it charted at least on the national charts.
Oh, no. I was with, we met two guys from the Washington, D.C. area. And my dad and my manager paid for the date and the recordings, and it was on a label called Vico, V-E-K-O. And there was one side called Dream Age, and the other side was called Fatty Fatty Boombalatti. And they were terrible, absolutely terrible. And And these two guys from Washington, they flew the coop. They took the masters. They had our money, and we never saw them again. But then the records all of a sudden came out, years later, and they were terrible records. And then, Frankie Day and me, we traveled to New York. I auditioned for, the majors, RCA, Columbia, Capitol, and got turned downs. And then our last resort was Cameo, a local label in Philadelphia. And the funny thing about it, the owner of the company was a man by the name of Bernie Lowe. And when I did the Paul Whiteman TV Team Club, Bernie Lowe was the piano player for Paul Whiteman. So I don't know if he remembered me from 10 years old, and I auditioned with another guy. We did a song called Buddies. And Bernie, he wanted to sign me. And so I signed with Cameo. And I had, I think 3 songs before my first hit record. And Bernie used to take all the dubs, the acetates to Dick Clark to play them and see what Dick thought of them. And Dick turned down my first 3 records. And the 4th record was a song called Kissin' Time. Bernie Lowe took the disc to Dick, the acetate, the dub, and Dick dropped the needle, on the acetate, and he said to Bernie, "That's a hit." That's how everything started with me.
And that's your first big hit. I mean, I think it'd be top 10,
summer of 1959.
Right. And
I forget. Yeah.
Let's see, you were as Cameo for like 7 years or something like that, weren't you? Something like that till about 64.
From about 1959 to 64.
Yeah. And that's probably where you had most of your hits during your career.
Oh yeah, all of the hits were on Cameo. Yeah.
And then the biggest one I know is Wild One. That's the one that you mentioned also that you probably
that was the first million seller. Yeah. First million seller was Wild One. Yeah.
Now on these, since you said it was a local label, was Cameo, prior to you having big hits, was it distributed nationally, or were you the cause of them distributing nationally?
Oh no, they had a young guy on the label who is a very dear friend, and his name is Charlie Gracie, who had a hit record on Cameo called Butterfly.
Okay.
So it was, the label was established, before I, signed with Cameo.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know my mom bought a lot of your records and things like that. I still have them in my collection now. So
okay, good. Well, thank you.
So, and I just remember the label, but I don't remember how well these things were distributed at the time because they just came secondhand. And my mom would just play these things,
Charlie Gracie was the first guy on the label to record a hit for them. And then when I signed with the label, then Chubby Checker signed, Dee Dee Sharp signed, the Times signed, and the Dovells, so it became a major. It became, although we were a small little independent label, it became, a major recording, major recording company.
Now you mentioned Dick Clark. Did Dick Clark promote you beyond just
oh my God,
mentioning your records?
Did.
I mean, did he have you on Bandstand all the time and things like that?
Well, when he first listened to Kissin' Time, and when we finally, produced the record, I did it on Dick Clark. And of course, Dick Clark was on from 3:30 to 5 o'clock every day from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Right.
And when he played a record, it automatically became a hit because every kid, across the country would say, "Oh my God, if Dick is playing it, we got to go out and buy it." So Dick was very instrumental in my recording career for sure.
And they always have those like music polls and everything. Is it a hit or a miss? I mean, how did you usually rank there? Did they usually predict that, Swingin School or something, or We Got Love will become a hit or something? Or was it...
Honestly, Mark, I don't know. To tell you the truth, I don't know. All I know is, they would write the material, and Dave Apple, who arranged practically all of my recordings, they would say, "Okay, this is that we're going to record this, and then after this we're going to record that, and so on and so forth." And I just went in and recorded them. Who
Hmm.
the hell knew if they were going to be hit or, hits or not? But they all became hits.
Hmm. Now, did you have any say-so of material? Like you say, oh, I couldn't sing that.
Not,
Just like,
no, nothing
okay.
whatsoever, Mark. No, whatever they threw at me, and Dave, Dave had his guitar and he would play, whatever it may be, oh, wild, well, we're going to the chicks, oh, and kicks, Swingin School, So they put it in front of me and I went in and recorded it.
Very cool. Okay. And then the one hit that I know, I was just kind of curious who inspired, if you had no choice, I don't know, but you did Volare, which Dean Martin and Domenico Madungo also had hits already. Was it
Correct.
your
Yeah.
choice to do that, or they said, "Oh, you're Italian too, you should do it too"?
No. What happened is we recorded an album at RCA Recording Studios in New York City. And Bernie Lowe really wasn't that enthused about the way the album came out. But I was coming off Swingin School
Right.
and we needed a song. So he went back in and listened to what we did in New York City. He heard Volare, and then we went back in the studio. We added the girls who were familiar with, my sound. Oh, Bobby. Oh, yeah. Whoa, whoa. Yeah, yeah. And from that, I mean, I had 3 songs that became chart records for me. Volare was my second million seller.
Mm-hmm.
And I also recorded Sway and That Old Black Magic on that date in New York. So they all became hit records for me.
Mm-hmm. Was there any inspiration also? I'm just asking about inspiration from like Bobby Darin, because he kind of veered from rock into classic remakes, as it
Well,
were, and things like that.
Bobby Darin was a dear friend.
Hmm.
And I have a charcoal picture of him. I don't know who sketched it, but it's signed by Bobby to me. And he wrote, "Dear Bobby, I wish for you what I wish for myself. Your friend, Bobby Darin."
Wow, that's
And
cool.
I don't know how many people out there who are, watching this had the chance to see Bobby Darin live, his nightclub act. And he was scary talented. He was just so good. And his son, excuse me, his son Dodd came to see me in Vegas with his wife and the children. And he presented me with this. It was a long piece of, and it was all wrapped up. And after the show, I was in the dressing room. And Dodd and his wife, Dodd Darin and his wife and his children came back. I unraveled it. And in the middle, it was a picture of Dodd when he was about 3 years old and Bobby holding him. On the left side is the original drum chart, the studio drum chart of Mac the Knife. And on the right side is the studio original drum chart of Up a Lazy River. And I went, oh my God. I said, Dodd, I can't. He said, yes, you can. He said, you're a guy who's keeping my father's memory alive, because I would do a tribute in my show. I would do Splish Splash, Dream Lover, Beyond the Sea, and Mac the Knife. Bobby was just, died way too
Oh
soon,
yeah, yeah. I
37
know he had
years
heart
old. My
issues
God.
and things like that. And the first time
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw him, my mom knew about him, of course, too. But first time I saw him was he did a variety show about a year before he passed, and I thought he was good on that, even as a little kid. So yeah. I don't know if you ever had seen that. The Bobby Darin show is like 71 or
Oh,
72. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, let's see what other things. My favorite thing that you've done, because I'm a big fan, is the movie Bye Bye Birdie. So I mean,
Yeah.
what was that? Was that an easy transition for you to become a singer to doing acting, or did it take some time? I know it wasn't your
Look,
first film,
I
but
never acted. I never acted before that in my life. And Margaret and myself screen tested for George Sidney, who was the director of Bye Bye Birdie. Was a marvelous director. Did a lot of great films. And when you do a screen test, they want to see how you come across on camera, what kind of personality comes across. Read a few lines from the script, And one boy, one girl, one special girl. And Mr. Sidney said, okay, thank you ever so much. We'll be in touch. I go home 2 weeks later. My manager, Frankie Day, says they want you for the part of Hugo Peabody.
Hmm.
Well, the part of Hugo Peabody in the Broadway show was nothing. He had no lines. He did no singing. He did no dancing. So I wondered, what the hell kind of a part can this be, you know? So well, when we started filming the movie, every day that I went to Columbia Studios, my script got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the reason why is that George Sidney saw some kind of magic between Anne Margaret and myself.
Yeah.
So when I would go to studios and, you know, more dialogue, you know, more singing. And of course, the big dance number was the Lots of Living number. So, you know, I'm not a movie star, but if I did one picture in my whole entire career, which was Bye Bye Birdie,
Yeah.
it's a classic.
Yes, it's one of my favorites.
I'm
So that's
very,
why I
very
was
proud.
asking.
I'm very proud. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you stay in touch with Anne Margaret or with Dick Van Dyke or anybody else from the cast?
Anne and I speak every. The last time I spoke to her, and this is a while ago, was when Roger Smith died, her husband.
Oh yeah.
And I called her up to give her my condolences, and she said, "Oh, thank you ever so much, Bobby. But you remember how sick he was." And I said, "I certainly do, and I just wanted to call, you know, to give you my condolences and, you know, see how you're doing, you know." So she's a sweetheart. When I call her, she always calls me Mr. Rydell, you know, which is my real name, Rydell. And and sometimes she would call me Hugo, and I call her Kim, you know. But
Right.
she's been a friend since 1963, Mark.
That's really cool. Yeah. Since you mentioned your real name, who came up with Rydell, and what does it mean anything, or is it just a snappy sounding shorter name?
What do you mean, Rydell?
Yeah.
Or Rydell?
Well, that's your real name.
Which one?
Rydell.
Yeah, Rydell. Yeah.
So who came up with Rydell?
Well,
is that you or the label or?
My father. As far as media is concerned, we said that Paul Whiteman came up with Bobby Rydell because he couldn't pronounce Rydell, but that was just, you know, for media. My father actually came up with the name, you know, because all of the nuns in school, they used to call me Master Rydell, Master Rydell. You know, for some reason, they couldn't even pronounce Rydell. So my father said, Rydell, Bobby Rydell. And that's how that all came about.
Okay, very cool. I'm just always curious when people come up with different stage names and things like that. You know, sometimes there's a complex story, sometimes it's a simple one. But you know, it seemed to work. You know, it's a very snappy, you know, Bobby Rydell. You know, kind of like that. So
yeah, well, absolutely. You know, yeah, for sure. And I've been very, very lucky with it. You know, extremely lucky for 61 years now. My God.
Very cool. Now I assume you're not singing and touring right now because of this pandemic and everything, but have you been touring up until maybe a couple years ago?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, yeah. Prior to the pandemic happened, my last gig was in Florida, and that was March. I think it was the 3rd of 2019. And then all of this happened.
Right.
And then, you know, since March of 2019 or 2020, I'm trying to remember
2020.
now.
Okay, 2020.
There was nothing. Yeah,
right.
there was nothing happening. You know, nothing at all. Everybody sat home. Avalon sat home. Fabian sat home. I sat home. Everybody sat home. You know. But I just did an engagement this past March. I was there March 18th and 19th at a place in it was outside of Orlando, Florida, and we did 2 dates, 18th and 19th, at a performing arts center. And so that was nice. That was, you know, really good, you know, to get back up on stage again. And we have a lot of things that are coming up for 2021 and into 2022 as well.
Yeah, I saw on your website, I think you're doing some shows in July. Is that correct?
I believe we'll start doing, in July. Yeah. And I think that's in right outside of Buffalo. theater called the Riviera Theater in Tonawanda, or wherever the hell it is. I know I fly into Buffalo, but and then the theater is the Riviera Theater in Tonawanda.
So when you had this basic year and a half off, I mean, what have you been doing? Like Charles and I interviewed Ron Dante of the Archies a few weeks ago, and he says he's still practicing, he's still singing. He actually did some recording. So have you done similar or?
Yeah, well, no, really just hung around. Me and my wife, we hung around, and I would, to vocalize, I would always vocalize in the shower, because it sounds good in the shower. And, when you have we have that like rainforest thing, that comes down over your head, and you hear the shh, and it sounds like applause. So I would get up and I would take my bow. I would bow because I would get a standing ovation in my shower. And then I go down, I play my drums, I put earphones on, I start playing my drums to different big bands and stuff like that.
Very cool. Now, when you sing for yourself in the shower, I mean, do you sing a variety of different songs? I mean,
no, I just do scales.
Okay.
I still do. I had his name was Marty Lawrence in New York City. I used to call him the Professor. And he would do the things like "On Dia Felice, on Dia Felice." I do that, and just do the different octaves, and that's how I would warm up, in the shower. Yeah. I don't know when I'm in my car. I'm usually, I'm either listening to 50s on 5 or seriously Sinatra, and and basically what I do. I mean, I've been a fan of Sinatra since I was 10 years old, and I know the arrangements on practically every album he ever did. And I would just do what the band was doing. I'd let Frank sing, and I would do what the instrumentation was and how the chart sounded, and I would do that, and I do that in the car.
So you're doing more Nelson Rydell or something, right?
Whoever it is, what was the one? Oh, the one I love belongs to somebody else. So that he was on reprise, and I just do what the band was doing. And the band start out ba 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 da ba ba da 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 ba. Yeah, I just play the chart. I would let Frank sing. I'll do the instrumental stuff.
Hey, you could do a belated duet with him and release that. Frank Sinatra
boy,
duet.
I wish oh my God, yeah. That would have been nice.
Did you ever meet the man?
That would have been nice.
Did you ever meet
Yes,
Frank?
I did. I met him when I was 19 years old at the Copacabana in New York City. And he was sitting at a table with Sammy Kahn, Jimmy Van Heusen, two marvelous lyricists, songwriters, Richard Conte, great actor, and Joe DiMaggio.
Oh, wow.
And Frank. And Jules Padell, who was the owner of the Copa, the boss. I used to call him Uncle Julie. And when he was down in the club and he was watching Joey Lewis, comedian who Frank made a motion picture, The Joker is Wild, about Joey Lewis's life. And after the show, he left. So I went up to the lounge and Sinatra comes walking out through the kitchen doors into the lounge. And I said, Uncle Julie, all I want to do is shake his hand. And Julie said, you want to meet Frank? Yeah. I said, yeah. So now I walk over to the table. He's sitting with all of these Sammy Kahn, Jimmy Van Heusen, Richard Conte, Joe DiMaggio. And Jules says, Frank, I want you to meet the kid. Sinatra stood up with those blue eyes. He put out his hand and he said to me, how you doing, Robert? Called me Robert.
Wow.
I said, fine, Mr. Sinatra. How are you? He says, I'm just wonderful. Would you care to join us?
Oh, wow.
19 years. I'm 19 years old. I sat there. I didn't say two words. I was in awe, just listening to what they were talking about. And then, I don't know, a couple of minutes later, Sinatra turned to me and he said, what do you drink, Robert? I said, Coke. Figured if I said scotch and water, I get smacked in the face, you know. But he took a picture with me, and he under one of his arms he has my album, Rydell at the Copa, and it's signed. It signs to Bobby, best always, your friend Frank Sinatra. What else? Hello,
Very cool.
Dolly. Yeah,
now,
very cool.
When you were sitting there with them, since you said you couldn't say 2 words because you were in awe, what were they talking about? Anything important? Or
I don't even remember. I honestly, Mark, I don't even remember. I was just, I don't know what they were talking about.
That's okay. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's that way. You're just like, wow, I'm sitting here with fill in the blank, you know, and it's like,
yeah, I'm sitting with the man.
Yeah,
I'm sitting with the man.
Now
I called my mother.
I called. Did he know who you were?
Well, yes, absolutely,
Very cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be embarrassing. It's like, hi, I had a few.
And I called my mother. I called my mother. We went back to the hotel where we were staying in New York. I called my mother and I said, "Mom, I just met God."
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen this little button. They used to sell this little button. I have it somewhere. A pinback button. It says, "It's Sinatra's world. We just all live in it."
There you go.
Yeah.
This is very true.
Now, the other one you did the cover of Volare. Did you meet Dean Martin over the years? In your
matter of fact, I was at the MGM Grand Hotel. I was in the lounge and Dean was in the main room. And I just went back to say hello. And I think I spent about 5 minutes with him, and he was absolutely wonderful. And then I excused myself, you know, and who else? Oh, Meduno. I saw him in New York City when he had Volare at a club in Brooklyn. I can't remember the name of the club. And then after I recorded Volare, we did a tour of Europe. And we were in Italy, and I have pictures at home. I'm sitting with Domenico Modugno in his villa in Rome. Yeah, they're really great pictures. Yeah, great pictures.
Wow. So when you meet people, you get the photographs, you get the autographs, you get everything. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, going down the line, since we're talking Rat Pack, did you meet Sammy Davis during your years?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Well, Joey Bishop, you know, we're both from South Philadelphia, and I did his TV show, the Joey Bishop Show, and Sammy Davis Jr., who I knew, and my mom, my dad, and my first wife Camille, we went to see him at the Latin Casino in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. After the show, we went backstage, and Sammy says to me, "Bobby, when are you going to invite me over your house for some Italian food?" I said, "My God, Sammy," I said, "any night you want to come." He said, "I'll be there tomorrow night." And he came to our house in South Philadelphia.
Wow.
And with his conductor George Rhodes, and my grandmother cooked him my grandmother was a great cook. And she cooked him tutto Italian. Everything was Italian, you know, meatballs, ravioli, spaghetti, lasagna, this, that. But my grandmother, coming from the old country, didn't know what to serve for dessert. So she served watermelon.
Wow.
Sammy, he laughed so goddamn hard. You know how Sammy laughs and he hits his leg, and he's like, you know, he thought that was absolutely precious, because my mother figured that, you know, African Americans, they like watermelon. So that was
Seems pretty innocent in a certain way.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. He adored it. He absolutely adored it.
Is there any other, I know we're talking celebrities and not talking about you, but you know, it's kind of fun to reminisce. Any other big names that you always wanted to meet and you met over the years?
Well, I worked with a lot of big names, you know, Red Skelton, Milton Berle, Jack Benny. My first appearance in Las Vegas at the Sahara Hotel was with Mr. George Burns for 2 weeks. And I would do something like 20 minutes, and then he'd come back on stage and we would do a soft shoe together. And the derby hat and the cane, and he would sing the way Mr. Burns would sing to Some of These Days. And we'd sing like, "Some of these days, you're gonna miss me, honey." And then I would sing it like Bobby Darin. "Some of these days, you're gonna miss me, baby." And we would do a soft shoe. And when I was done, I go upstairs to the dressing room, get out of my tuxedo, come downstairs and watch him in the wings. I watched him every night for 2 weeks in the wings. And you could do nothing but learn his timing, how he read a line. And his closer was one of the greatest closers that I've ever seen in my life. He had an audio tape of Gracie Allen, who had, of course, passed away.
Hmm.
And they would roll the tape. Now George, is on stage like he doesn't hear her, right? And he says, I remember Gracie and we worked the Roxy Theater back in 1937. And Gracie says, no, George, it wasn't the Roxy, it was the Biloxi Theater. And then George corrects himself. He says, matter of fact, it wasn't the Roxy, it was the Biloxi. Now, this goes on for about a minute or so. And then Gracie says, George, I think you've been on a little too long. Why don't you say good night to the audience? And he says, good night, ladies and gentlemen. And he walks off. And I went, wow. I mean, no fanfare, nothing. He said, good night, ladies and gentlemen. And I went, what a way to get off stage.
Yeah.
just a sweet little good night, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. And curtain falls.
Wow. Just before I have a couple more questions and then we can go, but I noticed you're wearing a Philadelphia Eagles cap.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess you're a big Eagles fan. So
I've been a season ticket holder since 1963.
Wow. Up until now, do you attend games regularly and things like that?
No, because I have a bad back and I really, I can't, walking sometimes, it hurts to walk, to the stadium. You drive to the stadium, but then physically getting into the stadium, mm-hmm. It was kind of hard. So now, I watch them at home now. Yeah. Excuse me.
Are you also a fan like the Phillies and everything in baseball and everybody else?
I like every Philadelphia team: the Phillies, the Sixers, the Flyers, and of course the Eagles. Yeah, cool. And I'm also a big Villanova fan because my son went to Villanova.
Very cool. All right, and have you spent most of your life in Philadelphia, or did you live in like Hollywood for the times you were recording?
The only time I spent any serious amount of time in L.A. Was when I made Bye Bye Birdie. And I think I was out there for a period of about maybe 4 or 5 months filming Birdie. But I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of the West Coast. I was always a South Philadelphia guy. And that's where my roots are, So I never made the move out to the West Coast. And Avalon, Frankie used to say, Bobby, he said, if you would have moved out here, you would have had your own TV show. You would have done more movies. And I said, you know what, Cheech? I call him Cheech, which is Frank in Italian, Cheech. I said, you know what, Cheech? I said, I said, I can't make it out there, man. I said, I think you people are nuts. Living with earthquakes and mudslides and fires. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, yeah, what about back home, Bobby? When it gets cold in the wintertime. I said, Frank, I can always turn up the thermostat. We don't have to deal with, we don't have to deal with all of that other horse shit, excuse me.
Yeah, that's okay.
But he may have had a point, but I look back on it and I say, hey, I didn't make the choice, and I'm doing fine.
Hey, if you have no regrets, then that's more power to you. You're happy man. Yeah. Happy man.
Yeah. Extremely. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in Northern California, and then I did live in Southern California briefly as a kid. I know what you're talking about as far as Southern California goes. It's like its own animal, as it were.
Yeah. I thought it was so phony. I remember like the first time I went out there, the publicist, they put on a party, for me, and a lot of the young Hollywood star, young kids and girls. And 2 of the guys, I forget who they were, we were all, teenagers at the time. And they staged a fight just for publicity, just so they catch, all of that. I said, oh man, this is total bullshit, and so Yeah, I hated it. Where do you live now?
So now I live in Oregon because it's a little bit cheaper, and it was getting too hot. I mean, I'm sure you seen on the news, wildfires and things like that. We've had
Oh
fires
my
up here in
God.
Oregon too, but not like down there. So,
Well, you know what was it? A couple of years ago, Frankie Avalon has a house up in Arrowhead,
hmm,
and Arrowhead got caught
yeah.
in one of those fires. Frankie's house wasn't touched.
Ooh, he's
I said,
lucky.
my
Yeah,
God, Frank. I said, what a lucky guy. He
yeah.
said, everything around us, Bob, went down.
Wow,
Houses were burned to the ground. Didn't hit his home.
that's very
But
cool.
he's still there. He's still in LA. He has a house in Arrowhead. He has a house in Palm Springs, and then in California, in LA.
Do you see or talk to him much nowadays? I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
as a
it's
matter of fact, I talked to him just the other day.
uh-huh.
Just
How's he
the other
doing?
day.
How's he
He's
doing?
doing fine.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
doing fine. He says, hey, he says, Bob, he says, I go out, I play golf every day, Kay and I, we go out for dinners, and he's doing the same thing, that I do. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're both looking forward to get back, doing
Yeah.
our show, the Golden Boy show. We're looking forward to that.
So, on your shows coming up, or at just a general Bobby Rydell show, what can you expect? What's a typical show that you put on?
Well, basically, I do a lot of my hit records. I do some Sinatra. I do a couple of things like World on a String,
Mhm,
and sometimes I've got you under my skin. I
mhm,
do some comedy. I do,
mhm.
some impersonations, and I just have fun.
Yeah,
I have fun.
yeah, that's the main thing I was kind of curious about, and hopefully,
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
when everything kind of opens up again, I can come out and see you sometime and see a show. All right.
That'd be wonderful, Mark. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, nearing the end of the show here, I just wanted to say thank you and thanks Charles Rosenay for bringing me to you and you to me. And how can people get in touch with you? And if you want to plug a website or plug a book or anything, the
Yeah.
floor the floor is
The
yours.
website. Excuse me. We have a couple of things. You can go to excuse me, BobbyRydell.com.
Mhm.
That's the website. And you'll see the tour dates there and merchandise, hats. And I have a book out called Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, A Tale of Second Chances, which I'm very proud of. It's really a great book, and it's a very easy read. So they can just, go there,
Okay. And
BobbyRydell.com.
okay. And then, like I said, I think I saw on the website that touring starts in July. Are you going to be eventually traveling the country and everything like that?
Oh yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. We got quite a few dates coming up. And matter of fact, we have dates now into 2022.
Very
Um,
cool. Okay. Well,
So
hopefully I'll
yeah,
get to see you one of these dates. And I appreciate you being with me today. And I want to thank you for being on the Fun Ideas podcast.
was it just a pleasure. Thank you ever so much, Mark.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Stay well.
You too.